Born and raised in Dubai, Alan George is an award-winning architect with over a decade of experience delivering high-end residential and mixed-use projects across the region. An associate at MKD, he leads teams that push creative boundaries. In 2019, Alan founded the A-Form Show, the region's premier architecture and design podcast, now with over 100 episodes. Through his work, industry talks, and role as a jury member at leading design schools, Alan is committed to elevating the regional design ecosystem through meaningful conversation. Alan, thank you so much for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you. For those who may not know you yet, can you please describe what you do?
So I am an architect and a podcaster, which is a fairly new title, which I didn't really intend on having. By profession and by education, I'm an architect. I specialize in sort of the residential sector, very high-end and sort of mid-end at the moment, and hospitality projects. And yeah, I'm pretty much an architect and a podcaster.
I love this title.
Yeah.
And thank you for having me as well on your show.
Oh, no worries.
6 years ago.
You were one of the very early supporters of the show. So thank you for coming on. At the time, the podcast wasn't really a brand or anything. I don't think even I knew what I was doing. So thank you for coming on.
Alan, you are now an associate at MKD. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
It's run by a gentleman who I know very well, Mark Claver,
Okay.
the MK of MKD rather. And I've kind of learned a lot from him, and this was a really good opportunity. So yeah, I'm kind of still there.
And how did you reach to become an associate? How was your journey as an architect?
Very different in the sense that when I started off architecture, I didn't really have any connections in the industry. I never had that uncle who had a design firm somewhere. I never interned in the summer anywhere. I just knew that I loved architecture and loved design. So naturally, when I graduated from university here, I could not find a job. So therefore, I had to take pretty much anything that I could. And I started off with a very small local firm who still remain good friends to me today. I learned a lot about site and authorities and approvals and permits and things like that. And from there, I wanted to work on large-scale projects. So I joined another firm where pretty much we worked on the Mina Rashid master plan that's there today. A lot of the early concepts for what today is the Mina Rashid residences. And that was kind of like 3 years of my life, just that one project, which was awesome because you get to work on like so many different scales, and there's infrastructure and traffic consultants and cabling and things like that, which normally you never, as a designer, never really deal with. And then I realized that that's not what I want to do because it was just so large. Every design meeting was like 25 people with, accounts and marketing, and, architecture and design kind of became the very last thing that people dealt with, which was the way that it works. And I then wanted to do really bespoke stuff, right down to, shadow gaps and detailing of that nature. And that's when coincidentally I met Mark, and I've kind of worked with him now for almost 7 to 8 years.
Wow.
And we've designed and delivered a lot of projects. Many of them have won awards, etc. It's a whole other different topic. But so I've kind of gone through the back end of design and then to large scale projects, and now working on really bespoke stuff.
So you did more or less 2 companies only, because now we encounter lots of trouble with people kind of jumping around, and you mentioned like you stayed 3 years on the same project. How important is it to try to stay before, because usually there is a small problem, we just start looking for something else.
Yeah.
How important is it for a career? Because everyone is asking, my clients are asking me for stability in a CV. So why is it important, and how?
This is something which I see a lot when now we're looking to hire as well, right? You see a lot of, 1 year, 2 months, 1 year, 3 months, 1 year, 4 months, that kind of thing. I think, I think if you have a problem of any kind, right? Be it boredom or too much pressure or whatever it is, I think the solution now has become, oh, I'll just look for another job. And that's kind of become the standard thing. Whereas, in my opinion, that should almost be like your last resort. Like that should be like, the I'm jumping out of the airplane with a parachute. Like it should be the absolute last thing that you do. And I think many people don't want to have that conversation with their manager or whoever it is to say, hey, look, this is now super easy for me. I'm bored, or this is super tough for me. I need help. Or, what does my career path look like? Am I going to become a senior or a partner, or, what am I working towards? I think many people don't want to have that conversation. And it's just easier to say, I'm just going to get another job.
Is this the manager's fault then to not be opening the door?
I think it's a bit on both. I think, yes, a manager probably needs to be a little more involved if that's how it's operating. Because people can tell, right? Like, I mean, I have, a couple of guys on my team also, when I know when they're kind of really stressed out or really bored or, whatever it is. And I think it's just a conversation to ask, what do you want to do now? Do you want to do some more concept work? Do you want to do some more detailing work? Do you want to do some more site work? Do you want to be in client meetings? What do you want to do for the next 4 to 5 months? And then you kind of work towards that. I can see at a large scale how that's difficult to do just because your teams become so much more bigger. But yeah, I think it's on both people. I think both managers and designers need to have at least a casual conversation every now and then.
I agree. That's one of the reasons I resigned from one of my previous jobs. Actually, I didn't have enough follow-up one-to-one, and now I'm making sure my team have weekly
coffee every day.
No, they have weekly team meeting and monthly one-to-one, because one-to-one is different. This is the only one time you can really open up, because if you have a huge struggle, you're not gonna share it in a weekly in a team meeting, or you're not gonna just go into your boss. Office because you're already stressed and you're emotional about it. So only when they force you to sit with them and talk, that's when you can open it.
And I think there's something nice about scheduling it, because I think both people kind of come prepared.
Yes.
With, both from a manager point of view, if I were to think about it, obviously, a lot of the back end of the company, which is, things like your cash flow, your pipeline, etc. But then from the employee point of view, you then also are thinking, but this is what I've done, this is what I've delivered, this is how I've performed. So I think if you kind of come with numbers on both sides, I think there's always a compromise to be found. And the funny thing is, I've also realized, and this I've realized after now becoming a father, so to speak, it's not always about the money. People seem to think that it's about, I was earning 15K and I want to be at 20. I was earning 20 and I want to be at 30, etc. But if you kind of talk to people and say, what do you really want? And something like, I want to come in at 9:30 instead of 8, people would take that over like a 5,000 dirham increase, because that's what's important to them. And this keeps changing over time. So I think there's a fear that both managers and employees have that, it's about money, and what if we can't give the salary? What if I ask for too much? But there's so many other things that you can kind of not negotiate, but agree upon, and everyone becomes happy all of a sudden, and you don't have the jumping.
Actually, that's an interesting topic, and we mentioned a little bit at your design confidence series at last time at Collab. I see it. Now people are not looking for money, they are looking for culture and flexibility.
Yeah.
Work from home, work from anywhere, different timing. But it seems that most design companies are completely reluctant. The thing I hear the most is, no, you have to be there physically to design, because you have to collaborate, you have to see the materials. So what's your take on that? Can designer work from home?
I think it comes down to the designer. Me personally, I can speak for myself. It's very hard for me to work from home, because my home has a toddler and has a nanny and has a TV that's always on and things like that. So for me personally, it's difficult. But If I'm at home and I'm by myself the entire day, it's probably easier for me to work at home. So I think it really differs from person to person and their situation. There are times, for example, if I have an entire day of just 8 Zoom calls, yeah, I could work from home. But if there's something which is a very intense sort of engineering coordination workshop where there's 5, 6 people involved, it's difficult to do online, in my opinion. I've found that it's much easier to have a 1.5 hour meeting and you'll probably resolve almost everything in person. So there's no clear answer, unfortunately. But in my opinion, it really depends on what the designer's working on. I mean, there are times when I've spent like a month just doing visualizations. So yes, in that scenario, I could because you're working in isolation. If you're leading a project, maybe not. So yeah, I think for us, what we do is it really is a case to case basis. And it's flexible. I think that's the main thing that, you may want to work from home this month and maybe next month you can't or you don't want to or whatever it is. As long as your workload is fine and you're able to deliver, should be okay.
Another topic, freehand sketching. So
This
how
topic close to my heart.
Yes, I know. How did you start, and how does this shapes your architect identity?
It's a very long story. I'll try to summarize it. My mother tells me I was a very hyperactive kid, constantly bouncing off the walls, too much energy. So as punishment, and shout out mom, this is not meant to cause shade or anything, but as punishment, she would literally make me sit down in one place and give me those big coloring books, ones with like 300 pages and things, and crayons. And, said, you can't get up until you finish like 50 of these. So initially, obviously, in anger, I was like just scribbling through and just like, tearing out pages. And she was like, fine, no problem. You finish this book. There's like 10 other books that I'll put in front of you. And at some point, it kind of just dawned upon me like, oh, okay, I can sort of color this and that. And that then sort of led to drawing, generally speaking. Art was probably the only thing I was really good at in school, naturally good at, I suppose. Everything else I had to like study and learn and everything. And that just sort of translated into career. Sketching definitely was further emphasized by Urban Sketchers, which is this, it's an international group of people, or a club rather, you would say. And I was kind of the first members of the Dubai chapter, where we went every week and sketched in a place. The whole point of sketching was to kind of document what you're seeing, so to speak. And for me, it became almost like, I used to call it going to the gym for a designer, because the more you sketch, the more you just have this sort of hand-eye coordination. Like there's some kind of connection between your mind and your hand that you can just quickly translate stuff. So yeah, it kind of just fed into both. So started sketching against my will, and now I love it.
Actually, it's a great idea of punishment for my son. I don't know what to do anymore with him. That's a good one.
Yeah, and I think it's probably because my mom's a teacher and she knew, this is probably one way to keep him occupied. So yeah.
Is it a problem that now the young generation is not sketching anymore? I mean, I hear because of the software now with AI, no one uses a pencil anymore.
I think so, but not for the projects, right? An example that I like to give is if you're in a client meeting, for example, and you've just, you've worked on a concept for like 6 weeks or whatever, and you're presenting it, many times I've had a client who after the presentation was like, yeah, it's okay, but if only we could see this or see that. And within minutes, I've been able to sketch it up for them then and there and show them, is it kind of something like this? And they'd be like, yes, exactly that. And I don't know of a quicker way to do that. Yes, you can probably now prompt your way to that. But are you really going to be prompting while talking to a client and
sounds
generating
rude
an
almost,
image? Maybe not. there's something about sketching where I feel the client also gets involved because they see your thought process happening in real time. And they're like, yeah, so if this room becomes bigger, then you get this washroom, then you get this view, and they follow along rather than just showing them an image. So I think for that reason, sketching is still important. Of course, there are many other important things, like you're able to convey your idea quickly. You can, convey your design to your team. But for me, I found dealing with clients, and if you can sketch your idea in front of a client, that's next level. They seem to trust you more for some reason. Yeah.
But I think some people just think they are not good at sketching. What advice would you give them?
No such thing. At Urban Sketchers, for example, which is a completely free club or event you could join, there are people who come who are 70 who have never sketched before, and there's toddlers who are 4 or 5 that come as well, and everything in between. You have architects, designers, artists, accountants, everyone. The whole point of sketching, I think, is to kind of just think of it like exercise, right? Like when you go to a gym, you got to do a bit of cardio and a bit of this and etc. Sketching is something like that for a designer. Just think of it as I have to sketch 15, 20 minutes today. It doesn't matter what you sketch. It doesn't matter the quality of the sketch. Just do it. And you'll find that just like in a gym, you do it for a month or 3 months, you just will become better without even trying. So I think people who say that they can't sketch, it's because they don't sketch. I think if you just put it as a routine, like I make my morning coffee, I sketch for 10 minutes, it literally just that, you'll see improvement. I don't think anyone, not even a designer, I think no one is a bad sketcher.
Oh, you didn't see my sketch.
It's because you're not sketching enough.
Brilliant. Okay, let's talk podcast now. Because, I think you are the biggest podcast in architecture in the region. How did it start, the A-Form show? And how did it help you build a personal brand as well?
Right. So the A-Form show started as a necessity, mainly. This is probably 2017, 2018, where I was listening to a lot of podcasts myself. And I wanted something which was regional, that spoke about the design ecosystem here. Anyone who works here, practices here, owns a studio here, even recruitment like yourself, you know that this is a very unique industry. It's very unlike Europe or the Americas. It's not exactly the same as Asia or China. It's a very unique way as to how we operate here and how we work. So I wanted something specifically for that, and I couldn't find anything. There was, I think, a construction podcast at the time, but that was more on the economics of construction, not so much on design. So that was one problem. The next problem was when I was working on the Mina Rashid project, we had a couple of interns that came on, and they basically had a good time, I think, because at the end of the internship, they were asking, hey, is there any way we can sort of come back or follow up on the project, and is there any way we can sort of document this for our colleagues because we learned so much, etc. And I said, no, actually, no one really documents anything with interns or anything like that. So how do we, share these learnings that we've had and these conversations that we've had? One in particular was talking about, I never knew signage is a field I can do as an architect. In my mind, I'm studying architecture, and I will study architecture, and I'll be an architect till the day I die, and that's it. But now I realize I can be a project manager, I can be, a design manager, I can do signage, I can do wayfinding. I was like, yeah, that's all true. And he's like, I never would have realized it. Maybe, 10 years into my career, I would have realized it. But as a student, I never knew this was an option. So I said, yeah, that's valuable. Yes. So it was kind of the meeting point of not having any podcasts, and the fact that there was this requirement of documenting these conversations in some way. And yeah, I was like, if there's nothing happening here, I might as well try to do it. So I literally was on Google, like, what is podcast? And I was on YouTube saying, how do I edit podcast, that kind of thing. And yeah, the first few episodes, like, the ones that you were on were not our best. Obviously not our best. But we kind of just kept at it. My whole plan with it was to sort of keep it sustainable, not bring it to a point where I can't do it or it becomes too boring. Keep just enough complexity that it keeps me, kind of going. And yeah, we've now been doing it for like 7 years or 6 years or something. We recently had our 100th episode that we celebrated, which was awesome. Kind of got all our guests back. And yeah, how that's helped personal brand, a lot. I mean, I don't even know how to like describe how many things it's done. If I had to summarize it, it's just helped me build a better network of friends at this point. Typically, as you also know, the minute you come on a podcast and you have a conversation, you tend to have some kind of a relationship after that. So having done this for so long with so many designers and so many people over the years, I feel like I've just got to know so many more people. And that in turn has just given more opportunity back. So it's helped a lot. Personal brand, it's helped a lot. It's something I recommend everyone should do. I think everyone should have a podcast, actually.
Yes, and actually, I wanted to mention that you said you started the beginning was not the best. Lots of people are waiting for things to be perfect, so they all want to start a podcast.
Yeah.
And they're like, but first, I'll have the best logo, the best name, the best podcast studio. But then, oh no, but I don't have the financial, and then I don't have, and then they never start.
Yeah. No.
And I always like to say that just start to make it perfect instead of wait for it to be perfect to start. I'm like this. I just jump all the time. I don't know.
Yeah.
Sometimes I regret. I'm like, oh my God. Because I always starting something new. But I think that's a fear. That's why people don't start.
I think we have to sort of accept that there is no perfection. I think the fact that and I'm guilty of it also. Our first episode, I remember it took me like almost a month to edit, and it was just audio. Because I was like, every breath and every and every, I wanted to be like, have it perfect.
Yeah.
There's no such thing.
No.
So I kind of have a rule with the podcast, and this is something which everyone involved with the podcast knows, which is 80%, which is quite simply, if the episode is above 80% in terms of quality, content, media, etc., it's okay to release. Because what I've found is that, let's say it takes us a week to edit an episode to bring it from 0 to 80%. It then takes another week to go from 80 to 90. And then it takes another 2 weeks to go from 90 to 95. And then it'll probably take another 4 weeks to go from 95 to 97. You're still not reaching 100, but you've spent now almost 2.5 months on one episode. Wherein if it was 80% good enough, you could have probably had like 5 episodes at 80%. And my opinion is that it's better to have 5 episodes at 80, because then you can learn from those 5 episodes, like what really I need to change. And then your 6th episode would probably be a lot better. Whereas if you follow the first scenario, after 2.5 months, you're still with one episode and you don't know if it's good or bad. So
you don't get the feedback because you're stuck.
So 80% is our rule.
Yeah, it's a great advice to start.
Yeah.
In terms of how now you are moderating a lot of talk, speaking, is it thanks to your podcast, you would say? Or how did it all started? Because some people also want to be more on stage, because I think designers love to talk, and there is lots of talk everywhere.
You cannot stop us.
How do some more get invited?
How do you get invited? Okay. You definitely need to have some kind of presence online. And by that, I don't mean you have to post every day, or you have to have, your own podcast or anything like that. When I say presence, you need to have an opinion, and you need to be able to share that opinion, be it on a blog, be it on a LinkedIn post, be it on an Instagram reel, story, whatever it is. But you need to have an opinion and you need to be able to share that. And I think if you do that consistently, people will notice, especially if it's a good opinion. Now, anyone can have an opinion, and sometimes it's nonsense, which is fine. But if your opinion is good and is aligned and people see it, I think that's the best way to get on the radar, number one. To become a speaker, I suppose once you sort of enter the ecosystem of speaking, you'll kind of automatically get the invites and things like that. But to get on, I think you need to really have an opinion. And I think in my case, what happened with the podcast is that for anyone who's heard it, I tend to share my opinion a lot. And sometimes it works out negatively, even because I'm quite critical of certain things. So I think, yeah, you should have an opinion and share it. And not a generic like ChatGPT post. That's like the worst thing you could do. Even if it's like 2-3 sentences, that's all that matters. But something which shows you've thought about the topic and you have an opinion on it, that'll get you on the radar for speaking for sure.
Is it important for all the designers, or you can build a great career without being on stage? Or
I think there's a bit of both. It goes hand in hand, right? Like you could be a very good designer, but if you're kind of not really out there, it'll just take you longer to where you want to go. I can put it that way. If you're a great designer and you aspire to work on X type of project, let's say you're a really good designer and you want to be working on an airport project, sooner or later in your career, you might get an opportunity to work on an airport project. But if you were to sort of put it out there in the sense that, listen, this is how I really think a terminal should be planned, and these are my thoughts on, customer flow from the, plane to here, or, this is how an airport tunnel should be designed or something like that. Sooner or later, someone's going to see that, and someone's going to see clearly how much thought and how much passion you have on that project. And it's likely that you're sooner or later going to get there, right? So I think it just shortcuts your way through. And it's free, right? Like, it's not like you have to pay for it or anything. You just kind of have to share what you're already thinking.
And I think also, as you said, for career, it's brilliant. Even if you have just on your CV, it makes a huge difference when you show that you're already out there, that you have an opinion, as you said, and that you've been invited to speak, just because they know that, first of all, you are kind of leader in your industry, and that you also are able to present, because in design also, not only on stage, just to present your project to a client.
Yeah.
I know some candidate getting rejected on the interview, and they are very good, they have brilliant portfolio, but they are so nervous or not articulate, and then the client get nervous that they're going to do the same in front of the client.
I think speaking publicly or just being present in the public teaches you a lot of that. It teaches you, obviously, being able to look at someone in the eye and say, oh, they're kind of not paying attention now, so maybe I should try something else. And voice modulation, body language, a lot of these things which are soft skills, which no designer ever learns, right? No one in any design studio ever says, now let's, practice the way you stand and let's practice the way you talk. And no one will ever do that. So it's something which you, in my opinion, you should learn by doing. You could read a book on it, you can have a course on it, but unless you actually do it, you won't really learn it. So I think there's a lot of other skills that you get when you also speak publicly. So I recommend every designer should. And again, you don't need a stage, right? You just need to be publicly present. That's it.
Same as sketching. Everyone can improve. Everyone can learn. There is no such a thing of, I'm a bad speaker, I'm not going to go on stage, I'm terrible. Because I hear that a lot. Sometimes I invite people, they're like, no. If you want, I can bring you my partner or they're like, not for me.
I have that exactly many times. And many guests who I will keep nameless, many guests on the A-Form show tell me the same thing. They're like, oh, but I don't want to be in front of a camera. I'm like, cool, no camera. I can't, speak fluently, and sometimes I forget my words and stuff. I'm like, don't worry. Oh no, but take our partner. They do a lot of our social media, and they completely know all our projects. I'm like, no, but I want to technically speak to you about this particular project. No, but I'm not sure. What if it's? I'm like, just try it out. So we typically, I tell the guest that I'm recording, but I actually don't record for like the first 5 or 10 minutes, just to get them sort of accustomed to the entire thing. And the thing is, if you're passionate about something, everyone can talk. It's not something which is out there and crazy. So yeah, I think everyone can. It's just get out of your head, get a little, know that it's not going to be ideal, it's not going to be perfect, which is a whole other different topic, but know that it's not going to be that. But the more you do it, the more it will be.
I agree. Something that helped me is to stop thinking about how I look, how I talk, this is very, when you think of it, and that's hurt me when I learned the first time, but it's selfish. And I don't want to be selfish. It's about the message, it's about the audience, it's about, and then when you think of them, as but what's the difference between moderating and speaking as well?
Oh, it's big difference. We were just talking about it all. Right? Like,
but I like
for me, I'm the most nervous when I'm a speaker, because I feel this pressure of people listening to me be like, what are you going to say? Give us wisdom. So for me, it's a lot more nervous to be a speaker. For me, moderating just comes a lot more easier because, like I mentioned, when I'm a moderator, I feel like I'm part of the audience. So I feel like I'm in a position where I can speak for the audience. And therefore, I kind of ask questions or bring up topics which I think that the audience would really, really love. So it comes naturally then, because I'm like, if I have, people, especially who are friends, for example, like if there's, Firas or Vijay or, someone like that who I know both personally and I know their projects and things like that, I kind of can ask a very, very specific question about a specific project and they're happy to talk about it. So what I like to tell people is with a speaker role, you need to be memorable. With a moderator role, you should be invisible. The best moderator or the best moderation that I've seen, you can never remember who the moderator was, because the moderator has just sort of been in the background. And that's what I try to do. So speak less, listen more, just guide the conversation. And if you're able to put a good panel together, the panel will do the job. You kind of just have to be in the background and kind of just ensure that it all stays within the conversation. But the best moderator should be invisible, which is why in many of our talks, I tend to even get off the stage.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I kind of just take a microphone and I'm kind of with the audience then.
Oh, that's nice.
Because the focus should be on the speakers and what they're saying. It shouldn't be on the moderator. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a difficult job, but behind the
yeah, I mean, of course, there's a lot of prep and research and things like that. Also, I'm not saying that I just show up. Yeah, I think because of the profession that we're in, because of the fact that I can be like an audience member, it just becomes easier.
Universities, you are very involved as well. You are involved everywhere.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit more about universities first, and how do you do all this? That's my next question.
All right, so I'll start with universities. My background is that I'm born and raised here. So I studied architecture here and I practice here. My sort of opinion is that, generally speaking, most studios and firms, and this is maybe changed now, but generally speaking, most studios and firms feel that graduates from here don't have it, don't have the talent, don't have the skill, don't have, the experience, whatever it may be. And unfortunately, it's kind of true. So this is something which I dealt with as a graduate because, there were obviously many basic things which I also didn't have or didn't study when I was doing architecture, whereas someone from the Bartlett, for example, would have. So I felt constantly behind when I was in the job market against someone who, say, graduated from, the AA or whatever it is. So I'd always told myself that when I do get some experience, any kind of experience, that I would always want to give it back to the students because no one gave it to us, so to speak. So I've been sort of involved with academia. I've also taught a little bit, and I do a lot of juries constantly. So the whole aim of that is to kind of give back to the students in the sense of, hey, this is what I had learned and it may be of benefit to you. Why don't you try it out? So that's how university happened. Because my belief is that, my strong belief is that there is a lot of talent here. And more importantly, there's a lot more passion here. I think a lot of the students who graduate from here really want to make something of themselves. Whereas elsewhere in the world, it could be just a degree. Here, they really, really want to make something of themselves. And they may not just know the road to do it, but eventually they'll get it. Yeah. And I think your next point was...
How do you do all this?
How do I do all of it?
Because you're involved with university, with your sketch club, with you are an associate in a company, you're doing podcasts, you're doing events.
Yeah.
When do you sleep? You have a toddler.
And I have a toddler, yeah. Yeah, what is sleep? Right? I don't
Overrated.
know. Yeah, who needs sleep? No. Off late, sleep is very important. I just have a very good support system, quite literally. And I have mastered the art of saying no.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's the most important thing, because there are many things you can say yes to. And my partner and I have now kind of come up with a checklist that I go through, especially for something like event season, right? Because as you know, in event season, you can have like 5 events in a day, every day for like 2 months, 3 months in a row. And all of them are good supplies and things like that. So how do you sort of, keep it together? So I have a checklist now where I'm like, do they have this? Do they have this? Are they involved in a project? Do I want to involve them in a project? Is there someone I need to meet there? Is there going to be a client there? And it's only if all these things check out, then I'll show up to an event, for example. And the same thing with work. If it's something which is important, yes. If it's not, it can wait. If it's this, it's that. And I think having systems and workflows is important. I live and die by my calendar. If it's not on my calendar, I will not be there, including family dinners.
Yeah, you put your personal life in your calendar.
Yeah, 100%. If you see my calendar, there's like MKD calendar, there's personal calendar, there's A-form calendar, and it's all kind of like in one. Plan your day, think about your week, think about what you want to do largely, because moderating was something last year, for example, that I really wanted to get into. So I kind of just cut out everything else. I said, this can wait, that can wait, but I want to focus on this. So, and the thing is, like, architects are generally planners, right? Like, we tend to plan spaces and things like that. It seems silly to me how you can't plan your calendar. It seems like something you should be able to do quite easily. But yeah, I think just plan your time, say no to things. Say no to a lot of things, actually, is the key.
It's difficult. I'm learning still to say no, but very important. Now I'm going to just shake things around. We do some quick fire questions.
Ooh,
so just
exciting.
Short and snappy, whatever comes to mind. Sketchbook or iPad?
Oh, sketchbook, 100%.
Biggest myth about personal branding?
That I need to have 20,000 followers to be a personal brand. You don't. Just be publicly online in some way, shape, or form. I'm a good example of that. I think I have like 100 and something followers on Instagram. And that's it.
That's good.
So it's all good.
Quality over quantity.
100%.
Teaching students or learning from them?
That's difficult. Learning from them. Yeah.
One habit that keeps you creatively sharp?
That keeps me creatively sharp. I think, I don't know if it's a habit. It's just something that I do off late. I watch a lot of podcasts, which are not design related. And for some reason, it keeps me design sharp. So, it could be something about, business, or it could be something about like personal branding, marketing, whatever it is, but it keeps me creatively sharp somehow. Yeah.
Best advice you ever received?
Best advice I've ever received. Oh, it's going to take a minute. Best advice I've ever received. I think it will probably be the perfection thing. I think this 80% rule thing is probably the best one. I apply to almost everything. I mean, even some of our projects where
Don't say
I,
that to your clients. They'll be
Yeah,
like, no,
where-
I want 100%.
Yeah, and the thing is, there's no 100%, right? There's never 100% coordinated set. Never. It's not possible. You cannot document 100% of all details. It's the 100% does not exist. So the thing is, how do you efficiently get the maximum out of your time and value? So yeah, I think the best advice I got is 80%, 80/20 rule. Yeah.
One mistake young designers should avoid.
Designers should avoid. Don't be too reliant on the tools, I think. I think young designers have the thing of, oh, I need the best render and I need the best this and I need to know all these programs. And those are all tools. So it's okay to know a tool and it's okay to be good at one or two. But the fundamental still needs to be what you think about design and what design process you want to put out there. So don't be reliant on the tools. That's the main thing. And I think it's quite important that they not do that.
If you weren't doing this, what would you be doing?
I think about this a lot, Esther. The answer is quite shocking. I think I might be a music producer. Yeah, I've actually given this thought. And the reason is I love music. I love all types of music across multiple regions, languages, everything from EDM, obviously, to the classics, to punk rock, to everything. I can listen to almost any kind of music and love it. And I didn't know why. And I'm now starting to realize it could be because when I listen to music, I think about, beats and tempo and things like that. And how would this have been structured? How would the bass have come there? How would the drums have kicked in here and all of that? So yeah, I think if not this, most likely I would have studied music. I can't play an instrument at all, but I think producing music would have probably been my thing.
It's not that shocking. Somehow I know lots of designers that are into DJing or like...
Yeah, it's
It's an art kind of things.
I think there's a lot of similarities between the interior architecture world and music, in the sense that music is also structured. There's a concept to it. There's a fundamental, basic concept, and then you keep detailing it with your lyrics and further production and so on till you eventually polish it all into a song. It's kind of how architecture works as well, right? You have a basic concept, and then you develop it, you get other people involved, other collaborators, and then it becomes this building. So I think there's a lot of similarity. That's probably why.
Here you go.
Yeah.
Before we close, I have one last question always. It seems almost all easy because you are doing lots of things very successfully. Are there any moment in your career that's been very tough, and how did you push through?
Oh, for everything that I do successfully, I probably failed at 5 other things. How do you overcome it? Call a failure and move on. Don't dwell over it. Don't be like, oh my God, it didn't work out. And it failed because I didn't have enough time, or I didn't have enough energy towards it, or I wasn't interested in it. But that's why it failed, and that's fine, and move on. So I think it's more trying to stay focused on what you really want to do. I think that's the main thing. It literally just comes out like trying things, right? And again, because calendars are so tight, and then no one has time. Now, if I want to do something new, for example, and my wife will kill me for this, but of late I've been thinking about editing videos professionally. So I'd need to learn, Premiere Pro or something like that. So how do I learn that in an already sort of packed schedule? So I literally am doing a free course online for about a week. And if I make it through the week, I'm interested, and then I can schedule it somehow. And if I lose interest in it, that's fine. I tried it and that's done. So I think people are not willing to give up that easily. Maybe they're like, no, I will do it and this and this. And I'm like, no, man, if it doesn't come naturally and if I'm having a difficult time and I'm not interested, it's a fail and that's it. I'll take the loss and I'll move on.
Very true.
Yeah.
Alan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Nice to have you as a speaker for once instead
Yeah,
of
it's like
interviewer.
I feel all the pressure was here now.
No, you did brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.